The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES horizon. Captain Jake Morrison had been exploring space for 15 years, but something about this sector felt strange. The ship moved quietly through the darkness near the Kepler 442 system, its sensors sweeping for anything unusual. "Captain, we are getting a signal," said Lieutenant Amy Ross from her station. Her voice carried excitement mixed with concern. "It does not match any human patterns." Jake walked over to her console and looked at the readings. The signal was weak but steady, coming from somewhere beyond the third planet. "Can you clean it up?" "Working on it now, sir." Amy's fingers moved quickly across her controls. After a few minutes, the signal became clearer. It was definitely artificial, but unlike anything they had seen before. Dr. Lisa Walsh entered the bridge at that moment. She was the ship's chief scientist, specializing in alien life forms that they had never found until now. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her green eyes showed the curiosity that made her perfect for this job. "What do we have?" she asked, moving to stand beside Jake. "Unknown signal, possibly from an alien ship," Jake replied. "It could be our first real contact." Lisa's eyes widened. Humanity had been searching for other intelligent life for over a century. They had found bacteria and simple plants on distant worlds, but never anything that could build ships or send signals. Commander Rick Torres, the ship's first officer, joined them on the bridge. He was a tall man with dark hair and careful eyes. His job was to think about security and safety before anything else. "Captain, if this is first contact, we need to be very careful," Rick said. "We do not know if they are friendly." Jake nodded. "You are right, but we cannot ignore this." "Amy, can you locate the source?" "Yes, sir." "It is coming from approximately 2 million kilometers away, near the asteroid field. Set course for the signal," Jake ordered. "Yellow alert. All departments, prepare for possible first contact." The horizon moved toward the signal source. As they got closer, their sensors picked up something that made everyone on the bridge stop and stare. There was a ship, but it was unlike anything humans had ever built. The alien vessel was smooth and curved, almost like it had grown rather than been constructed. Its surface seemed to shift between blue and green colors, and strange lights pulsed along its hull. It was beautiful but also clearly damaged. "The ship appears to be in distress," reported Sam Carter, the chief engineer, over the communication system. "I am reading hull breaches and failing power systems." Jake made his decision quickly. "Open a channel on all frequencies. Let us try to communicate." Amy worked at her station for several minutes before shaking her head. "No response, Captain." "They might not be receiving us, or they do not understand our signals." "What about their life signs?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her instruments. "I am reading multiple life forms aboard their ship. They appear to be alive but possibly injured." Jake looked at his crew. This was the moment that would change everything for humanity. They could play it safe and observe from a distance, or they could take a risk and try to help. "Prepare a shuttle," Jake decided. "Rick, Lisa, Sam, you are with me. Amy, you have the bridge." "Captain, is that wise?" Rick asked. "We do not know anything about them." "If they wanted to hurt us, they would have done it already," Jake replied. "Besides, if someone found us damaged and floating in space, I would hope they would try to help." The shuttle bay was busy as the team prepared for their mission. Sam loaded tools and basic medical supplies while Lisa brought her scientific equipment. Rick checked their weapons, though Jake hoped they would not need them. The shuttle approached the alien ship slowly. As they got closer, they could see the damage was extensive. Large sections of the hull had been torn open and debris floated around the vessel. "There," Lisa pointed to what looked like an opening. "That might be a docking bay." Sam piloted the shuttle carefully through the opening. Inside, they found themselves in a space that was clearly designed for ships, though. Everything was curved and organic-looking. The atmosphere showed as breathable on their scanners, though it was thicker than Earth normal. They put on their breathing masks and left the shuttle. The artificial gravity was lighter than Earth's, making each step feel bouncy. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors, and the walls seemed to pulse with their own light. This way, Lisa said, following her scanner toward the strongest life signs. They are not far. They moved through corridors that felt more like walking inside a living creature than a machine. The walls were smooth and warm to the touch, and there were no sharp corners anywhere. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the bridge. Several alien beings were there, and Jake felt his breath catch. They were unlike anything he had imagined. The aliens were humanoid, but clearly adapted for water. Their skin was translucent blue, and he could see what looked like gills along their necks. They had large eyes that seemed to hold great intelligence and gentle expressions despite their obvious distress. One of them, wearing what appeared to be a uniform, approached them carefully. It spoke in a voice that sounded like water flowing over stones. But there was something musical about it. Lisa immediately activated her translation device. After a few moments, it began to produce rough English words. Greetings, visitors ... We grateful ... for ... assistance. Jake stepped forward slowly, his hands visible and empty. We are humans from the planet Earth. We received your distress signal and came to help. The alien's large eyes seemed to brighten. It spoke again, and the translator worked better this time. I am Kala 7, science officer of this vessel. We are called Zephyrians. Our ship was damaged by asteroid impact. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship Horizon, Jake replied. These are my officers, Commander Rick Torres, Dr. Lisa Walsh, and Chief Engineer Sam Carter. We would like to help repair your ship if you will allow us. Kala 7 turned to speak with another Zephyrian, this one older and wearing more elaborate clothing. After a brief conversation, the older alien approached. I am Elder Nuru, commander of this vessel. The translator converted his words. Your offer of assistance is most unexpected and generous. We accept your help with gratitude. Over the next several hours, the two crews worked together. Sam and the Zephyrian engineers found ways to combine human tools with alien technology. The Zephyrians were amazed by human ability to improvise solutions, while the humans were impressed by the advanced biological computers that ran the alien ship. Lisa and Kala 7 worked closely together, sharing scientific knowledge and learning about each other's species. The Zephyrians came from a water world where cooperation was essential for survival. They had developed technology that worked with living systems rather than against them. As the repairs progressed, Jake found himself talking with Elder Nuru about their respective civilizations. The Zephyrians were peaceful explorers and scientists, much like the humans claimed to be. They had been traveling between star systems for centuries, always avoiding conflict and seeking knowledge. Your species is remarkable, Elder Nuru said as they watched their crews work together. Most beings we have encountered are suspicious of strangers. We believe that cooperation makes everyone stronger, Jake replied. Besides, helping others is just the right thing to do. Elder Nuru's expression showed something that might have been approval. This attitude may bring you trouble in this region of space. What do you mean? Jake asked. Elder Nuru looked around to make sure they were not overheard. There are others in this area who do not share your peaceful intentions. They call themselves the hegemony, and they believe that might makes right. We have dealt with bullies before, Jake said. Humanity does not back down from doing what is right. That is what concerns me, Elder Nuru replied quietly. The hegemony has destroyed species for less than what you have done for us today. The repairs took 2 days to complete. During that time, the two crews learned much about each other. The Zephyrians shared their knowledge of local star systems and their advanced propulsion technology. The humans demonstrated their remarkable adaptability and their willingness to take risks to help others. When the Zephyrian ship was finally ready to depart, there was genuine sadness on both sides. Kala 7 and Lisa had become close friends, sharing scientific theories and cultural stories. The engineers had learned much from each other, and even Rick had developed respect for the Zephyrians' careful approach to security. As the alien ship prepared to leave, Elder Nuru sent a final message. Captain Morrison, your species has shown us something we had not seen before. Most beings help others only when it benefits them. You helped us simply because it was right. This gives us hope, but it also makes us fear for you. Jake replied, "Thank you for your warning, Elder Nuru, but humanity has learned that some things are worth fighting for. Friendship is one of them." The Zephyrian ship disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the horizon alone among the stars. But something had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had made their first alien friends. Jake stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. He knew that this was just the beginning. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them with the same courage and determination that had brought them to the stars in the first place. 3 months had passed since the first meeting with the Zephyrians. The UES horizon now floated in orbit around Aquatica Prime, the beautiful blue world that the Zephyrians called home. What had started as a simple rescue mission had grown into something much more important. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of the new research station they had built in the asteroid field nearby. Through the transparent walls, he could see Zephyrian ships moving gracefully between the rocks, their bioluminescent hulls glowing like sea creatures in the deep ocean. "The cultural exchange program is working better than we hoped," said Dr. Lisa Walsh as she joined him at the window. She carried a data pad filled with notes from her daily meetings with Kala 7 and the other Zephyrian scientists. "The technology sharing has been incredible too," Jake replied. "Sam says the new propulsion system will cut our travel time by half." Lisa nodded enthusiastically. "And the Zephyrians are fascinated by our engineering methods. Kala 7 told me yesterday that they never thought to use metal alloys the way we do." The friendship between the two species had grown stronger every day. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian biotechnicians to create new solutions to old problems. The Zephyrians taught humans about living technology that could repair itself, while humans showed them how to build structures that could survive in harsh environments. Commander Rick Torres entered the observation deck with a serious expression on his face. "Captain, we have 3 more human ships arriving today. The UES Defiant, the UES Guardian, and the UES Explorer." Jake was pleased to hear this news. "Good. The more ships we have here, the better we can protect our new friends." "The Defiant is a heavy cruiser," Rick continued. "Captain Ben Clark is commanding. He has experience with hostile contacts." "Hopefully we will not need that experience," Jake said, but he knew it was better to be prepared. The ships arrived right on schedule. The UES Defiant was an impressive sight, twice the size of the Horizon and built for war. Its angular hull and weapon ports made it look dangerous even when peaceful. Captain Ben Clark came aboard the Horizon for a meeting that evening. Clark was a veteran officer with gray hair and scars that told stories of past battles. He shook Jake's hand firmly and got straight to business. "I have been reading your reports about these Zephyrians," Clark said. "They seem like good people, but I am worried about this hegemony threat they mentioned." "We have been monitoring space around this system," Jake replied. "Nothing unusual so far." "That might change," Clark warned. "Command sent me here because they are taking the threat seriously. A military alliance that has conquered 47 systems is not something to ignore." Elder Nuru had visited the human station several times during the past months. Each time he had shared more information about the hegemony. They were a collection of 3 species that had joined together to conquer other worlds. The Kratari were insect-like warriors who loved to fight. The Velkos were reptilian and preferred strategy over direct combat. The Mordani were silicon-based beings who built the weapons and ships for the Alliance. "The Zephyrians have been hiding from them for decades," Lisa added. "They stay in systems that are hard to find and avoid drawing attention. But now they have human friends," Rick pointed out. "That changes everything." Jake looked out at the peaceful scene beyond the window. Zephyrian children were playing in the shallow seas of their world while their parents worked on joint projects with human scientists. It was exactly the kind of future he had hoped for when humanity first reached for the stars. "If trouble comes, we will face it together," Jake decided. "The Zephyrians took a risk by trusting us. We owe them the same loyalty," Captain Clark nodded approvingly. That is what I hoped you would say. My crew is ready if you need us. 2 days later, the peaceful routine was shattered. Lieutenant Amy Ross was on duty at the sensor station when she detected something that made her blood run cold. Captain Morrison to the bridge immediately, she announced over the communication system. Her voice carried an urgency that brought Jake running. What is it, Amy? Jake asked as he arrived on the bridge. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, she reported. 57 vessels, all unknown configurations. Jake felt his stomach drop. Are they hegemony? Unknown, but they are definitely not human or Zephyrian, Amy replied. They are moving into formation and heading this way. Rick Torres was already at his station, coordinating with the other human ships. Captain Clark is moving the Defiant to intercept position. The Guardian and Explorer are taking defensive positions around the research station. Contact Elder Nuru immediately, Jake ordered. We need to know if these are the ships he warned us about. Within minutes, Elder Nuru appeared on the main screen. His usually calm expression showed fear and sadness. Captain Morrison, the hegemony has found us. I'm sorry we brought this danger to your people. How long do we have? Jake asked. They will broadcast their demands soon, Elder Nuru replied. The hegemony always gives their victims a chance to surrender before they attack. As if summoned by his words, a new signal appeared on the communication channels. The image that appeared on screen was terrifying. A creature that looked like a giant insect with razor-sharp claws and acid-dripping mandibles stared at them with compound eyes that showed no mercy. I am High Commander Thex Kratari of the Hegemony Fleet, the creature announced in a voice like grinding metal. Primitive. Species will submit to hegemony authority or face extinction. The aquatic ones have harbored illegal contact with unknown aliens. Surrender within 1 solar cycle or be destroyed. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. Amy, get me a channel to all human. Ships and the Zephyrian fleet, Jake ordered. Channel open, Captain. Jake took a deep breath and spoke clearly. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We have received your ultimatum, High Commander. Here is our response. The Zephyrians are under human protection. Any hostile action against them will be considered an act of war against humanity. We strongly advise you to reconsider your position. The reply came back within minutes. High Commander Thex Kratari's laughter sounded like breaking glass. Your species will serve as an example to others who defy the hegemony. Prepare for extinction. Captain Clark's voice came over the communication system. All human ships, this is the Defiant, battle stations. We have a fight on our hands. Jake looked at Rick, who was already coordinating defensive positions. How many ships do we have? 4 human ships and 12 Zephyrian vessels, Rick reported. They have 57 warships. Those are not good odds, Jake admitted. We have faced worse, Rick lied, but Jake appreciated the effort. Dr. Lisa Walsh had been quiet during the exchange, but now she spoke up. Captain, I have an idea. The Zephyrians have been developing new biotechnology that could help us. If we can combine it with our weapon systems. Do it, Jake ordered. Contact Kala 7 and get started immediately. Elder Nuru appeared on screen again. Captain Morrison, please reconsider. The hegemony has destroyed entire civilizations. Your ships are brave, but they cannot win against such numbers. Elder Nuru, with respect, you do not understand humans very well yet, Jake replied. We do not abandon our friends, ever. The old Zephyrian's expression showed something between admiration and despair. Then we will stand with you, Captain Morrison. If this is to be our final day, we will face it together. It will not be our final day, Jake said firmly. We are going to win this fight. As the human and Zephyrian ships prepared for battle, Jake stood on the bridge of the horizon and looked out at the approaching enemy fleet. The hegemony ships were dark and angular, built for war and destruction. They moved in perfect formation. confident in their overwhelming numbers, but Jake had something the hegemony did not understand. He had friends worth dying for, and that made all the difference. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for the right of all species to choose their own destiny. Today we show the galaxy that bullies will not be tolerated. Today we make the hegemony regret they ever heard of humanity." The battle was about to begin. The battle began at dawn, Aquatica prime time. The hegemony fleet moved forward like a dark cloud, their ships bristling with weapons and shields that shimmered with alien energy. High Commander Thex Kratari had expected this to be a quick victory against primitive species who dared to defy the hegemony. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the enemy approach. The human and Zephyrian ships looked tiny compared to the massive hegemony fleet, but Jake felt no fear. He had made his choice, and he would live or die by it. "All ships begin evasive maneuvers," Jake ordered. "Stay in the asteroid field and use the rocks for cover." The human ships moved quickly between the floating stones, their smaller size and better engines giving them an advantage in the cluttered space. The Zephyrian vessels followed, their bioluminescent hulls pulsing with nervous energy. Captain Ben Clark's voice came over the communication system from the UES Defiant. "Horizon, this is Defiant. We will draw their fire while you coordinate the defense." "Negative, Defiant." "We stick together?" Jake replied. "Captain Morrison, my ship has the heavy armor and weapons." "Let us do our job," Clark insisted, before Jake could respond. The hegemony fleet opened fire. Beams of red energy and explosive missiles filled the space around them. The first shots missed as the human ships darted between asteroids, but Jake knew their luck would not last forever. "Return fire," Jake ordered. "All weapons target their lead ships." The human ships launched their missiles and fired their energy weapons at the approaching enemy. The shots struck the hegemony shields and exploded harmlessly. The enemy armor was stronger than anything they had faced before. "Our weapons are not getting through," reported Lieutenant Amy Ross from her station. "Captain, I have an idea," said Chief Engineer Sam Carter over the communication system. "Dr. Walsh and I have been working on something with the Zephyrians. We can modify our weapons to work with their biotechnology." "How long do you need?" Jake asked. "Give me 10 minutes," Sam replied. "You have 5. Jake said as another volley of enemy fire exploded nearby. The battle was going badly. The hegemony ships were bigger, stronger, and more numerous. Their weapons could punch through asteroid rock like it was paper, and their shields seemed to absorb every shot the human Zephyrian Alliance could throw at them. Captain Clark's UES Defiant was leading hit-and-run attacks against the enemy fleet, but even the heavy cruiser's powerful weapons were not doing enough damage. The hegemony ships just kept coming, their formation perfect and their fire deadly accurate. "Captain, we have lost contact with the UES Explorer," Amy reported. "They took a direct hit to their engine compartment." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Good people were dying, and he was responsible for their deaths, but he could not let himself think about that now. He had to focus on the battle. "All ships, fall back to defensive position around the research station," Jake ordered. "We need to buy Sam more time." The human and Zephyrian ships regrouped around the small station, where they had been working together for the past 3 months. The hegemony fleet followed, moving slowly and confidently. They knew they had the advantage. High Commander Thex Kratari's voice came over the communication channels. "Human Captain, your resistance is admirable but futile. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." Jake activated the communication system. "This is Captain Morrison. We have a message for you, High Commander." "Go to hell." The Kratari's laughter echoed across the void. "Your species has spirit. We will enjoy breaking it." The enemy ships opened fire on the research station. The small outpost's shields flickered and failed under the massive bombardment. Jake watched in horror as the place where humans and Zephyrians had worked together was destroyed in seconds. "That was our home," whispered Kala 7 over the communication link. The Zephyrian scientist sounded heartbroken. "We will build another." "One," Jake promised. "But first we need to win this fight." Sam Carter's voice came through the communication system. "Captain, the weapon modifications are ready. We have combined human explosive power with Zephyrian biotechnology. These new missiles can adapt to enemy shields." "All ships, load the new weapons," Jake ordered. "Let us see what humanity and our friends can do together." The modified missiles launched from the human ships and flew toward the hegemony fleet. As they approached the enemy shields, the biotechnology components began to change and adapt. The missiles shifted their energy signatures and found weak points in the alien defenses. The explosions that followed were spectacular. 3 hegemony ships were destroyed immediately, and 2 more were heavily damaged. The enemy formation wavered for the first time. "It worked," Sam reported excitedly. "The bioweapons are learning from each attack." High Commander Thex Grattery's voice carried anger now instead of amusement. "All ships, focus fire on the human vessels. Destroy them immediately." The hegemony fleet concentrated their attack on the human ships. The used Guardian exploded under heavy fire, taking 30 brave crew members with it. The UES Defiance shields were failing, and Jake could see burn marks across its hull. "Captain Clark, get out of there," Jake ordered. "Negative, Horizon. We are going to make them pay for every shot," Clark replied. Commander Rick Torres appeared at Jake's side. "Captain, I have a plan. It is dangerous, but it might work." "I am listening," Jake said. "We can use the asteroid field to our advantage. If we can lure them deeper into the rocks, we can cause a chain reaction that will destroy several of their ships." Jake looked at the tactical display. Rick was right, but it would require someone to get very close to the enemy fleet. "Who would pilot the mission?" "I will," Rick said simply. "Load one of our fighters with all the new bioweapons we have left. I can get close enough to trigger the reaction." Jake shook his head. "I cannot ask you to do that, Rick. It would be suicide." "You are not asking, Captain." "I'm volunteering," Rick replied. "Those Zephyrians risked everything to trust us. Now it is our turn to risk everything for them." Before Jake could stop him, Rick was heading for the fighter bay. Within minutes, he was flying a small ship loaded with every explosive device they could fit inside. "All ships, this is Commander Torres," Rick announced. "I am going to clear a path through the enemy fleet. When you see the fireworks, hit them with everything you have." Jake watched on the main screen as Rick's fighter darted between the massive hegemony ships. The enemy weapons tried to target the small, fast vessel, but Rick was the best pilot Jake had ever seen. He weaved between the laser beams and missiles like he was dancing. "Rick, you can still abort," Jake said over the communication link. "Not a chance, Captain." "Tell my wife I love her," Rick replied. The fighter reached the center of the enemy formation and exploded. The blast was so bright that the main screen automatically dimmed to protect their eyes. The explosion triggered a chain reaction through the asteroid field, and massive rocks began colliding with hegemony ships. "Now," Jake shouted, "all ships, attack." The human and Zephyrian vessels launched every weapon they had at the confused enemy fleet. The bioweapons found their targets and exploded with devastating effect. Ship after ship disappeared in brilliant flashes of light. When the destruction finally ended, 23 hegemony ships had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining fleet was damaged and disorganized. High Commander Thex Grattery's flagship was still intact, but it was smoking and listing to one side. "We did it," Amy said in amazement. "We actually hurt them." But Jake knew the victory had come at a terrible cost. The UES Guardian and UES Explorer were gone along with most of their crews. Rick Torres, his best friend and most trusted officer, was dead. The research station was destroyed, and several Zephyrian ships had been lost as well. High Commander Thex Grattery appeared on the main screen one final time. His insectoid features were twisted with rage and disbelief. "This is impossible. Number species has ever inflicted such damage on a hegemony fleet." "You picked the wrong species to threaten," Jake replied coldly. "This is not over, human. The Hegemony High Council will send the full war fleet. Your entire species will pay for this." "Defiance." "We will be ready," Jake promised. The damaged hegemony fleet began to retreat, but not before the Excretari sent one final message. You fight with the fury of animals, but not for yourselves. You fight for others. This makes you dangerous in ways we do not understand. The High Council must know about this. As the enemy ships disappeared into hyperspace, Jake slumped in his captain's chair. They had won the battle, but the war was just beginning. The hegemony would return with more ships and better preparation. Elder Nuru appeared on the main screen. The old Zephyrian's eyes were filled with tears. Captain Morrison, we are sorry for the losses you have suffered. Perhaps we should have surrendered. Never, Jake said firmly. Rick died fighting for something he believed in. We will not let his sacrifice be meaningless. Dr. Lisa Walsh looked up from her station. Captain, I am reading something strange. The damaged hegemony ships we captured are sending out signals. What kind of signals? Jake asked. They appear to be sending information about us back to their home territory. Details about our tactics, our weapons, and our willingness to fight. For allies, Jake realized what this meant. The hegemony had learned something new about humanity today, and they would not make the same mistakes again. The news of the battle reached Earth 12 days later. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his quarters aboard the rebuilt UES Horizon, reading the response messages that filled his communication screen. What he saw there changed everything. The first message was from Admiral Kate Sullivan, commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Her face was stern, but her eyes burned with determination. Captain Morrison, your actions have been reported to the Global Council. The attack on our people and our allies cannot go unanswered. Humanity is going to war. Jake had expected anger from Earth Command for getting involved in an alien conflict. Instead, he found something much more dangerous: complete support for his decision. Every human colony, every space station, every ship in the fleet was mobilizing for war. The second message came from General Paul Martinez, head of the Colonial Marines. Captain, we have reviewed the tactical data from your battle. The enemy is strong, but they have weaknesses. We are preparing a response force that will show the hegemony what happens when they threaten human friends. Dr. Lisa Walsh entered Jake's quarters as he finished reading the messages. She looked exhausted from working around the clock to coordinate with the Zephyrian scientists, but her expression showed excitement. Jake, you need to see this, she said, activating her datapad. We have been in contact with other species in hegemony space. They are sending us information about hegemony tactics and weaknesses. Other species? Jake asked. I thought they had all been conquered. Conquered, yes, but not broken, Lisa replied. There are resistance movements on dozens of worlds. They have been waiting for someone strong enough to fight back. The datapad showed star maps with hidden bases and secret communication networks. Species that the hegemony thought were completely under control had been preparing for rebellion. They just needed someone to lead the fight. KLA-7 appeared in the doorway, her translucent blue skin flickering with the patterns that showed deep emotion among her people. Captain Morrison, Elder Nuru wishes to speak with you. It concerns the war preparations. Jake followed the Zephyrian scientists to the main conference room. Elder Nuru was there along with several other Zephyrian leaders. Their expressions were serious but determined. Captain Morrison, Elder Nuru began, we have made a decision that goes against thousands of years of our culture. The Zephyrian Council has voted to abandon our peaceful ways and fight alongside humanity. Jake was surprised. The Zephyrians were naturally peaceful beings who had never waged war against anyone. Elder Nuru, are you certain about this? Once you cross this line, there is no going back? We crossed that line when we chose to trust humans, Elder Nuru replied. Your Commander Torres died protecting our people. We will not let his sacrifice be meaningless. The old Zephyrian activated a holographic display that showed their planet's industrial facilities. We are converting our biotechnology centers to produce weapons. Our ships will carry living missiles that can adapt to any defense. Our scientists will share every secret we have learned about the hegemony. Jake felt a mixture of pride and sadness. The Zephyrians were giving up their peaceful nature because humans had shown them friendship. It was both an honor and a terrible responsibility. Over the following weeks, ships began arriving in the Aquatica Prime system. Not just human ships, but vessels from species that Jake had never heard of before. They came in secret, using routes provided by the underground resistance networks. The first to arrive were the Corvan, a species of natural engineers who had been forced to build hegemony weapons for 50 years. Their ships were small but incredibly advanced, using technology that the hegemony had not bothered to understand. Captain Mary Johnson of the U's Liberty brought the Corvan delegation to meet with Jake. The aliens looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin and 4 arms. Their leader, called Engineer Prime Zex, spoke through a translation device. "Human Captain Morrison," Zex said in a voice like wind chimes, "we offer our knowledge in exchange for freedom. We know how to build weapons that can pierce hegemony. Shields." The second group to arrive were the Ashanti, a warrior species that had been enslaved and forced to fight in hegemony armies. They were powerful beings with thick, armored skin and natural weapons. Their leader, War Chief Kofi, was nearly 3 meters tall and spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. "We have waited long for worthy allies," Kofi declared. "The hegemony made us fight their wars, but they never broke our spirit. We will gladly fight beside humans who protect the weak." More species arrived each day. The ethereals were beings of pure energy who could sabotage hegemony computer systems. The Verdani were plant-like creatures who could grow bioships in weeks instead of years. Each species brought new capabilities and new hope for victory, but the most important arrival came 6 weeks after the first battle. A massive fleet of human warships dropped out of hyperspace, led by the flagship UES Vengeance. Admiral Kate Sullivan came aboard the Horizon with a smile that promised terrible things for humanity's enemies. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Sullivan said as she shook his hand, "you have started something remarkable here. Earth Command has authorized me to inform you of your promotion to Fleet Admiral. You will command the Liberation Fleet." Jake was stunned. "Admiral, I am honored, but I am not qualified to command such a large force. You are the man who chose to fight for alien friends when it would have been easier to run away," Sullivan replied. "That makes you exactly the right person for this job." The human fleet was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. 200 heavy cruisers and battleships formed the main battle line. 500 destroyers and frigates provided support and reconnaissance. 1,000 fighter squadrons gave them superiority in small craft combat. 50,000 colonial marines were ready to liberate conquered worlds. General Martinez came aboard to brief Jake on the ground forces. "Admiral Morrison, we have been training with equipment provided by our new allies. The Corvan gave us shield-piercing weapons. The Ashanti taught us their combat techniques. The Zephyrians provided bio-armor that can repair itself." The planning sessions went on for days. Jake found himself coordinating with military leaders from a dozen different species, each bringing their own strengths to the alliance. The hegemony had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced a coordinated rebellion of this size. Dr. Lisa Walsh had been working with the resistance networks to identify the best targets for their first attacks. She spread a star map across the conference table and pointed to several systems. "We should hit these 12 systems simultaneously," she explained. "Each one has strategic importance, and they all have large populations of enslaved species who can join us once they are liberated." Admiral Sullivan studied the map carefully. "What about their response time? How quickly can the hegemony reinforce these positions?" "According to our intelligence, they will need at least 2 weeks to organize a coordinated response," Lisa replied. "If we move fast, we can liberate these systems and be gone before they can stop us." Jake looked at the assembled leaders around the table. Humans, Zephyrians, Corvan, Ashanti, and representatives from 6 other species all working together toward the same goal. It was exactly what he had hoped for when humanity first reached for the stars. "How long before we are ready to begin operations?" Jake asked. "The fleet can move in 3 days," Admiral Sullivan reported. "My warriors are ready now. declared War Chief Kofi. Zephyrian bioships will be fully armed in 2 days, added Elder Nuru. Jake made his decision. We launched the liberation campaign in 72 hours. Send a message to every resistance cell in hegemony space. The cavalry is coming. As the meeting broke up, Jake remained behind to study the star charts. In 3 days they would begin the largest military campaign in human history. They would be fighting not for conquest or resources, but for the simple idea that all sentient beings deserve to be free. Admiral Sullivan approached him as he stood alone at the table. Having second thoughts, Admiral? No, Jake replied firmly. Just thinking about how we got here. 6 months ago, we were exploring empty space. Now we are about to liberate a galaxy. The hegemony made a mistake when they threatened your friends, Sullivan observed. They showed humanity what we were really fighting for, Jake nodded. Rick Torres died believing that some things are worth any sacrifice. Tomorrow we find out if he was right. Outside the conference room windows, the greatest fleet in human history prepared for war. Ships from a dozen worlds worked together, their crews united by a common cause. The hegemony had ruled through fear and strength for centuries, but they had never faced an enemy like this. They had never faced hope. The war began exactly as planned. Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching 12 different battle groups jump to hyperspace simultaneously. Each group targeted a different hegemony system, carrying liberation. To worlds that had been enslaved for decades, the first reports came back within hours. Admiral Sullivan's force had destroyed the shipyards at Crixos Station, while General Martinez's Marines were liberating the prison world of Thymus. The Ashanti warriors fought alongside human soldiers, their natural armor protecting them as they charged hegemony defensive positions. Admiral, we are receiving surrender broadcasts from 3 systems already, reported Captain Amy Ross, who had been promoted to serve as his communications officer. The local hegemony forces are overwhelmed by the coordinated attacks. Jake nodded with satisfaction. The plan was working better than he had hoped. By hitting multiple targets at once, they had prevented the hegemony from concentrating their defenses. Each victory added new ships and warriors to their growing alliance. War Chief Kofi appeared on the main communication screen from the planet Thymus. Behind him, Jake could see liberated prisoners cheering as hegemony guards were led away in chains. Human Admiral Morrison, the fortress world is ours. 2,000 hegemony soldiers captured, 50,000 slaves freed. Well done, War Chief, Jake replied. How many of the freed prisoners want to join us? Kofi's fierce smile showed rows of sharp teeth. All of them, Admiral. They have waited long for this day. The liberation campaign continued for 3 months. System after system fell to the Alliance forces, and each victory brought new allies. The hegemony tried to respond, but their forces were scattered across 100 worlds. They could not defend everywhere at once. Dr. Lisa Walsh had been coordinating with the resistance networks throughout hegemony space. Her workroom was filled with star charts and communication equipment as she tracked the progress of the rebellion. Jake, you need to see this, she said as he visited her during a brief rest period. We have identified the location of the hegemony capital world. Jake looked at the data she had compiled. The planet Dominion Prime was heavily defended and located in the center of hegemony space. It would be the most dangerous target they had ever attempted. How many ships are defending it? Jake asked. Our intelligence suggests at least 500. Warships plus planetary defense systems that can destroy entire fleets, Lisa replied. But Jake, there is something else. The resistance cells report that the hegemony is planning something terrible. She activated a holographic display that showed intelligence reports from across their territory. They are gathering their remaining forces for a final battle. But if they lose, they plan to destroy every world they have conquered rather than let them go free. Jake felt cold anger fill his chest. Even in defeat, the hegemony wanted to cause as much suffering as possible. How long do we have? Our sources say they need 2 more weeks to complete their preparations, Lisa answered. After that, will either attack us with everything they have or begin destroying their own worlds. Jake made his decision immediately. Send word to all Alliance forces. We attack Dominion Prime in 10 days. The next week was filled with intense preparation. Every ship in the Alliance was recalled from liberation missions. The fleet that assembled in the outer system near Dominion Prime was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Humans, Zephyrians, Corvan, Ashante, Ethereals, Verdani, and 20 other liberated species worked together as one unified force. Their ships filled space for millions of kilometers, a testament to what could be accomplished when free people stood together. Admiral Sullivan brought her battle group alongside the Vengeance. Admiral Morrison, the fleet is ready for final assault. We have 1,500 ships and 200,000 ground troops. The enemy has us outnumbered in defensive positions, Jake replied, but they have never faced a force like this. Elder Nuru appeared on the communication screen from his bioship. The old Zephyr looked determined despite his peaceful nature. Admiral Morrison, our living weapons are prepared. We will pierce their shields with the fury of evolution itself. Engineer Prime Zex reported from the Corvan Task Force. Human Admiral, our shieldbreaker weapons are charged and ready. Today we repay 50 years of slavery. As the Alliance fleet approached Dominion Prime, the hegemony forces moved to intercept them. The enemy ships were massive and dark, built for intimidation as much as warfare. At their head was the flagship Dominator, commanded by Supreme Overlord Vex Velkos himself. The Supreme Overlord appeared on all communication channels, his reptilian features twisted with rage. Foolish creatures, you have signed your own death warrants. Today the hegemony will crush this rebellion and show the galaxy the price of defiance. Jake activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today, we fight not for conquest or revenge, but for the simple right of all beings to live free. Today we end the age of tyranny. The battle began with the largest exchange of fire in galactic history. Thousands of ships engaged across millions of cubic kilometers of space. The Alliance forces used their speed and coordination to outmaneuver the heavier hegemony vessels, while the Zephyrian bioweapons adapted to enemy shields in real time. The fighting was fierce and desperate. The UES Liberty exploded under concentrated fire, taking Captain Mary Johnson and 300 crew members with it. The Ashante heavy cruiser Warrior's Pride rammed a hegemony dreadnought, destroying both ships in a massive explosion, but slowly, the Alliance forces began to gain the advantage. The Corvan shieldbreakers punched holes in enemy defenses, while ethereal fighters sabotaged hegemony computer systems from within. The Verdani bioships grew new weapons during the battle, adapting faster than the enemy could respond. Jake led the final assault on the Dominator personally. The Vengeance and a dozen escort ships fought their way through the enemy fleet toward the hegemony flagship. Supreme Overlord Vex Velkos tried to retreat to the planet's surface, but Alliance fighters blocked his escape. This ends now, Jake announced as his Marines prepared to board the enemy ship. The boarding action was brutal but brief. Colonial Marines and Ashanti warriors fought side by side through the corridors of the Dominator. Supreme Overlord Vex Velkos made his final stand on the bridge. Wielding an energy sword and refusing to surrender, General Martinez confronted the hegemony leader in single combat, as was their tradition. The battle was quick and decisive. The Supreme Overlord fell, and with him, the last organized resistance of the hegemony fleet. As news of the victory spread across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. On every world the hegemony had conquered. The remaining occupation forces surrendered. The rebellion had succeeded beyond all expectations. Jake stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance. Looking down at Dominion Prime, the planet that had been the center of galactic tyranny was now free. Ships from dozens of liberated species filled the orbital space, working together to establish a new government. Dr. Lisa Walsh joined him at the window. The Galactic Coalition for Mutual Defense has been officially established. Representatives from all 47 liberated worlds have signed the charter. What about the hegemony leadership? Jake asked. They will be tried for war crimes by a joint tribunal, Lisa replied. The 3 core species will be relocated to their original homeworlds under coalition oversight. Elder Nuru appeared beside them, his aged features showing satisfaction. Admiral Morrison, the Zephyrian Council wishes to express our eternal gratitude. Without human friendship, we would still be hiding in the darkness. You do not need to thank us, Jake replied. Friends protect each other. That is what friends do. War Chief Kofi's voice boomed from the communication system. Human Admiral Morrison, the Ashanti people wish to propose the coalition motto, "No one fights alone." Jake smiled. It was perfect. Motion approved, War Chief. 5 years later, Jake Morrison stood in the same observation deck, but now he looked out at a very different galaxy. The rebuilt Zephyrian homeworld sparkled with new cities where humans and aliens worked together. Trade ships from dozens of species traveled freely between the stars. The Galactic Coalition had grown to include 73 different worlds. New species were discovered regularly, and each was welcomed with the same friendship that humanity had shown the Zephyrians so long ago. Admiral Sullivan had taken command of the Coalition Defense Fleet, ensuring that no future tyrants could threaten the peace they had built. General Martinez led the peacekeeping corps, helping newly discovered species establish their own governments. Dr. Lisa Walsh had become the Coalition's chief science officer, coordinating research projects that benefited all member species. The combination of human adaptability, Zephyrian biotechnology, and dozens of other scientific traditions had led to discoveries that none of them could have made alone. Admiral Morrison, Elder Nuru said as he joined Jake at the window, "There is something I must tell you. Our long-range exploration ships have detected signals from beyond the galactic rim. It appears we are not alone in the universe." Jake looked out at the stars with excitement rather than fear. Whatever was out there, humanity and their friends would face it together.